Hey, what's up, everybody? Can you hear us? Uh, my name is Joseph Zaletta. All right. We got my brother here, David Guzman. We're going to be talking about the Black Six Project and about our medical missions coming up. And then we'll go into one specific mission we'll be coming up to, which is our trip to the Philippines in the island of Mindoro. So let me just switch this off. You can see us. Okay, so what's up, everyone? Like I said, I'm Joseph Zaletta.
I'm David Guzman.
For the Black Six Project, for the founders, we're planning to do future missions. This is just a little information webinar to share with you guys on what we plan to do in the upcoming future, how we're going to do it, and what kind of help is needed, and how you might be able to fit into our mission. So one of the first things we've done as a mission was go to the island of Mindoro, Philippines, and we did our first reconnaissance mission, or the what we also call the needs assessment and survey. We took a team of about 4 paramedics, flew over there, and assessed a tribal community called the Mangyan. Now we went through 3 different towns over there, and we did our needs assessment, one town, one day, and we assessed about 100 to 150 people each time. So from that information, we came back here and decided how we're going to bring more help over there, because we didn't see it as a good plan to go over there when we had no idea what was needed yet. So now we have a better idea of what's needed and a better idea of what logistics will help us achieve our goal in the most efficient and economical way. Now it's just a matter of putting everything into place and getting more help, more specialties of healthcare traveling over there. Anything you want to add?
No, not at this time.
All right, so we'll start rolling into the slideshow about all the information that you might find helpful. All right, so like I said, the island that we went to is called Mindoro. It's a place where I was from until the age of 4, and from there I traveled here to the U.S. where I spent uh, my time growing up. But it's always been one of the places I've always wanted to go back, and it's basic living. There's been people there and tribes that have been there for centuries, and they still live in the same way. And we'd like to help them better themselves with proper health care, which they have no access to because they're a little bit more remote. They don't have the money or the funding to get that access. So some things we're going to talk about are like the dates of our trips, our mission objectives, meaning what are we going to do when we get over there, what do we plan to accomplish, the volunteers needed, which means what kind of help will we need. It could be anything from nurses to other healthcare specialties, but down to the administrative and things, the grunt work that's needed to get this mission going. I use the analogy of, it took thousands of people before you get to astronauts into space. So you need that ground control to get us going where we're supposed to go. So even though you can't make it, that's the type of people we need. Also the costs, how we're gonna fundraise to get those costs covered. And then at the end, we'll talk about what to expect. This is for like volunteers who are going to be over there, what they plan to see, living conditions, how we're going to take care of people, how we're going to travel. And at the end, we'll leave it open for some questions and answers. All right, so we're monitoring also the chat. So if you guys want to have any questions on the side, and if we get a chance while we're talking, we'll answer some of it as you post comments on the side, right? All right, so the date of our trips are we're planning to go to Mindoro this year is around April 30th to May 11th. Those dates are tentative in that it all depends on how many volunteers we can get to go. There's no use of heading over there when we only have two people, two doctors, two dentists, two nurses, two paramedics. We need a little bit more than that. So it depends on how many people get over there. It also depends on if we hit our fundraising goals. It's also one of the hottest times of the year. If it gets too hot, maybe some of the people won't be in good condition to conduct any operations over there during that time. So if we can't hit our goal, we're planning to push it back towards October, November, where the weather will be a little bit more cooler. Rain will be less of a problem. So that's what we plan to do. So last year, our needs assessment survey trip happened around July 31st through August 11th, and we conducted our mission in 12 days. We hope to do it a little bit more and add some more time where people can acclimate to the time change, and also get a little rest and recuperation, because it is physically challenging, and also you're moving a lot. So we want to make sure everyone's well rested before they get there and before they're out there in the field having to take care of people. All right, so some of our objectives of going there is mostly provide pediatric care. I would say about 80 to 90% of our patients were children under the age of 10. And it's kind of hard to guesstimate how old they are, because technically in the way they live, they don't keep track of the date they were born. They were just born in-house. Their prenatal care has been minimal, and the healthcare workers there have been encouraging them to go to the local hospital during the time of birth. But since they've lived a certain way for a certain amount of time, they've been used to giving birth in their own home. Nothing's documented or a birth certificate is not made officially like we are used to here. So a lot of times when you talk to people in these communities, they don't know exactly their date of birth or how old they are. It's usually an estimate. I think we want to do is provide dental care. As you can see, is one of the pictures down there is hygiene, and also access to proper supplies for hygiene and care is very minimal. So we want to try and bring dental care there. As you can see, is one of the pictures there. One of the kids' teeth is full of cavities. So we're gonna try to bring that to them. Next is educate them on clean water, and also bring them methods of cleaning water. So just like our trip last year, we bought filters, water treatment supplies. We also want to bring more of that. On top of that, we want to educate them on how to use it and why they need to use it. And then on top of that, there's other things where we want to educate them on proper hygiene. As you can see, one of the pictures on top is a little girl who had a little wound to the right side of her scalp, and it wasn't properly cleaned often, and she was actually bathed in dirty river water, as you can see in that tub. And when we assessed it, it was leaking pus, which brings in a lot of infections. A lot of flies tend to land there, lay their eggs, and maggots will appear if they're not cleaned properly. So what kind of volunteers do we need? Of course, given the population that we're treating, we're looking for pediatric doctors, pediatric nurses, paramedics, and also some fundraising staff and administrative staff. the population is very young, so we want those that are specialized in taking care of those types of patients. We want them to be able to head out there. That's from doctors to nurses and paramedics. The fundraising staff is very important because we're sending this specialty care about halfway around the world. Talking about like a 16-hour flight followed by a 3 to 4 hour flight, followed by a 2 hour car ride, followed by a 3 hour boat ride. So the expenses on travel are ridiculously high. And then on top of that, we have to add the expenses of medical supplies and team equipment and lodging. So the fundraising staff plays a big role, as well as the administrative staff. We need a way to keep track of our supplies, ordering them, booking the flights, making sure our transportation is good to go, and then also logging on who we take care of and what kind of care we gave. That way, we return, we already know what kind of data we have from the data we have on what to expect if we had any change or impact from the care we gave, and hopefully it's improved by the time we return. And on top of the administrative staff, a big thing to add to that is I think a good media team. This is a very secluded area and people don't know too much about it. So during our trip over there, the media staff, which was Jane, Carlo, and Michael, they provided great pictures, great video footage, and it tells a story about these communities that live out there and what we're trying to bring to them. All right, so what we're estimating costs right now is about $1,400 per volunteer, and that's with the dates of April till May. With the flights being kind of inexpensive, what we're paying for are medical supplies, flights, lodging in Manila. We'll have free lodging when we get to Mindoro. We'll be staying at my parents' place, which is enough to handle the amount of volunteers. And on top of that, we have other family members that are willing to lodge us, and that will save us a great amount of money. And then this will be the ferry rides, and also, volunteers can bring their own expense money, where we can also go to other parts of the island, which are, have more day trips where you could snorkel, scuba. There's one of the world's longest zip lines on that island. It goes from one island to another. So we'd like volunteers to experience that too while we're over there. And then another thing is insurance costs will, to protect our volunteers and also our organization from, medical costs that should happen over there. All right, so fundraising. Last year, Dave, I think, when did we have our fundraiser?
I believe it was sometime in May, early May.
Okay, yeah, so right now we're trying to look for locations on where to have our next fundraiser. We're looking at, again, April or May. We're in New York City, so we're looking for a time where temperatures will be a little bit more mild. We could be outside. So we're looking to do a fundraising event around April, May, so stand by for that. Another thing that we're going to do is try to assist volunteers who sign up to go on a GoFundMe page, where we could have them raise about like that $1,400 to whatever amount goal to get each volunteer to raise their own capital and make it as a donation to the Black Six Project. That way we could start, we have the funds that way. And each volunteer is able to put in their own effort in getting themselves to be flown over there. Next thing we have is merchandise sales. Right now we have the t-shirts, the hoodies, the hats, and then even the keychains. It may not be much, but we're planning to put some more out there, but you may not know it, but those are the things that sort of got us off the ground to begin with, right? Dave, we really just started with a keychain, and then from keychain to t-shirts,
and then sweatshirts and so on and so forth. So small purchases of these particular items go a long way, and they help get the name out there, the brand out there, and Like I said, it helps streamline some money back into the organization so we can use it for our missions. So yeah, they may not seem like a lot of items, but as Joe stated, this is what helped uh, allow for the Black Six to take off.
Okay, so what to expect when you're over there? It's a really long trip. I always, in the military, called it a sea, air, land operation because we're literally flying, from here to Asia, the other side of the the world, and we land in Manila. So most of us, depending if you're leaving from New York City, it'll be almost a 16-hour flight, and depending on the flight that we book, we're either landing in Hong Kong, Japan. There's just no direct flight from the East Coast. So there's gonna be a stopover there, and then from there it'll be a 3 to 4 hour flight to Manila. So when we land in Manila, we plan to stay an overnight in Manila. Hopefully, we can get some great accommodations over there. Enjoy the food, as you can see in the bottom picture. Is the second from the right. That was one of our first meals there. We ate pretty well before we started heading towards Mindoro. From Manila, then we headed towards a seaport down south called Batangas, but then we take a ferry from there. Ferry ride's about a 3 hour ride. You get to see, you're on the water, you get to see a good view of Luzon, which is the main island, and then until you could see the island of Mindoro come up over the horizon, which is nice and beautiful, green and mountainous, and you land in the town of Abradillo. So that's pretty much what most of the trip will be like to get to that island. And it is exhausting, but you get to see different aspects of the Philippines, from the very city-like culture of Manila, and then it becomes a little bit more suburban as you go south to the seaport, into the water, and then into the tropical province of Mindoro. And what to expect culturally is Filipinos are very polite people. Don't go crazy in that you think language would be a big barrier. A lot of Filipinos learn English in school, so you can communicate pretty well in English. They may have a little bit of difficulty in that a lot of the population is a little shy, and that they may be a little shy in communicating to you in English because they may feel that their English isn't good enough. So expect that, but very friendly people. From our experience to dealing with the Manyan people, they tend to not complain. There was like one town that we went to on our third, which was our third town, where another tribe walked over from 3 hours away, and we almost couldn't get to them because we already had about 100 people on line waiting, and I had to tell them that we may not be able to see them, and they were just like, "It's okay, we'll come back another day." You don't really get that here. Here you'll hear people complain about how come we can't help them. So I felt bad. We ended up giving them food that we bought over. So they're very humble people. Weather-wise, expect the temperatures to be around the 80s, hopefully upper 70s when we go around November. Lodging, when we're in Manila, it's going to be like a very urban city, so we'll be probably trying to get us a condominium up there, or and it's pretty affordable over there, so we'll keep it low and a little bit more luxurious before you start going to Mindoro. When you get to Mindoro, we'll be staying at my parents' place, which is right by the beach. So it's not 5-star lodging, but it's a home right by the water. Beautiful views of the beach. You're literally 10 yards away from the water. There's a pool, and we'll be traveling by van. Food wise, there's no shortage of food, and mostly seafood, like shrimps, crab, fish, and definitely a lot of rice. And schedule wise, It may be a little tight, but that's how we tend to do things. But we're going to try to find some times definitely to uh, get some rest and also enjoy ourselves with some activities. Wouldn't want anyone to go all the way out there and not enjoy the pleasures of what Philippines has to offer. So if anyone has any questions about that, we're going to move on to some questions and answers. If anyone has any questions, you guys could post it on our YouTube chat. Email us at info@black6project.org. We'll answer any questions. I guess we'll leave a minute or two for questions on the chat, which we're monitoring right now.
So some of the most common questions that we get asked by our volunteers or people who are looking to volunteer is how do we fund our missions? Joe gave you the breakdown of the price, and he estimated about $1,400. Now, this may seem like a lot of money, but one way we've been able to accomplish this is through, as I stated earlier, the sale of merchandise, such as shirts and keychains and all that other good stuff. We are going to assist volunteers with setting up GoFundMe pages where they can ask relatives or friends and set goals and raise money that way. If we could pay for everyone's trip, we would, but unfortunately, where we're at in the stage of our organization, we just can't. We just can't. And we do try to provide as much as we can as far as like lodging and food and all that kind of stuff. But the bulk of the price will have to come from the volunteer. And I guess that's what keeps the volunteer engaged throughout the year, because the thing we want from our volunteers is that they not only partake in the mission, right? The Black Six is a family, and it's a 24-hour operation. Joe and I are constantly working on ideas, on ways to, help get the name out, the brand out, and raise funds. However, we do have other things that kind of limit us from doing that full time. And so it's important for volunteers to step up and be active and help with raising money and getting our name out. So for those who ask or think that $1,400 is a lot, it really isn't. If you think about it, you can divide that by a couple of friends or families members, donating $100 here, $25 there. You could also fund, the trip out of pocket and write it off at the end of the year on your taxes, as we are a 503 registered, non-for-profit organization. So whatever money you spend on, whether it's gear or flights and stuff, you're more than welcome to save the receipt, and we can give you a receipt and you can write it off. And it's all for a good cause, because although this is focusing on the Philippines, as many of you are aware, Joe and I were able to put together two medical missions, or two relief missions rather, because they weren't medical. Two relief missions to Puerto Rico, 2 weeks after Hurricane Maria, with very little time, very little resources. He and I got together along with, Team Alpha and Team Bravo, who did a great job coming together and going to Puerto Rico and spending, a total of 2 weeks over there in between each teams. And it just showed us how much we can accomplish in so little time. And so, again, it's a reflection of our volunteers, and that's what we expect from all of our volunteers. When you come in here, we're not here to, to play around. It's no joke. Let's raise money. Let's get the name out there. And our limits is the sky. I think Joe could attest to that. We were able to accomplish a lot in Puerto Rico, as I stated, in a little bit of time, and I think we can do the same in the Philippines. April does seem like it's around the corner, and in October is as well. And $1,400 may seem steep, but if you just chip away, and either through a GoFundMe or through the merchandise, I think it's not a lot to ask of.
Right. So we got a question about talk about more about the Mangyans. So the Mangyans are it's more of a general term of what the native community is called in the island of Mindoro. There are other tribal communities within Philippines. You have the Igorot to the north, and some other ones around the Philippines. So Mangyans specific to the island of Mindoro. They live out in the mountains. They've been known to be in there, like I said, centuries ago. They're very humble people, and what's been the problem is that they're considered the minority, just sort of like how here the Native Americans have been pushed into the different lands. Here, it has been less violent in the Philippines of where they got pushed into the mountains. They just try to avoid trouble, and to them, I applaud them on that because it takes so much before someone can really push you and your family out of your property. So it went from even the days of the Chinese doing trades in the Philippines, and also the Spaniards, the Americans, and then the mixture of what the modern day Filipino is almost like is a mixture of different cultures. And they've maintained their culture mostly by trying to isolate themselves and just staying out of trouble and staying out in the upper parts of the mountains and more remote areas. On top of that, they are, like I said, considered a minority. Um, their ability to advance themselves is limited, of course, to a lot of things like education and access to it. When your family is mostly living off of the land, it seems too hard to make your own uh, profitable living. And what's been happening too is the land that they're on is not always theirs. They're literally just harvesting and paying the people that own the land by giving them their crops. So they really don't get any capital. I think some of the people that went with me over there could see that they had a lot of lack of clothing, lack of shoes, clean water, and even my cousin who went with me over there, she bought extra shirts that was given out by her company, and they're all flocking them. A lot of the kids had sizes that were like adult sizes. It was the only clothes they had. So they're a community that's very humble, and that's why I think they'd be very appreciative of the care that we give. Uh, Next question is, hey, could people donate medical supplies or needed equipment as well? Yes, definitely. There are some medical supplies that could save us money. Things from bandaging to antibiotic cream. We don't want any packaging that's been open. Even just gloves save us a lot of money. We're an organization that's still in its first year, and we're living dime to dime, and we're trying to save in any way we can. So we'll take send us an email if you have any medical equipment you want to donate or supplies, and we'll take it. Next question is personal security, a big concern in the Philippines during the mission. I know that in the news you hear a lot of killings and stuff like that, and in reality, It's a very safe country. But on top of that, we don't take things lightly. Given Dave and my combat experience, we're always on the lookout for any type of danger in Manila and also on our way there. So, that's really not a problem along those areas. But then when we started heading into Mindoro, there has been, some rebels that live out there and have caused trouble, but none dramatically. So, but we do reach out to the local government, and they provide us escorts. The army gave us escorts when we went to the first two towns, and then the police gave us escorts when we went into the third town. So we're pretty much safe from where we go, and that's one of the reasons that I chose this location is that we do have the connection to get that kind of personal security that we need just to make sure the volunteers feel safe and where we are. And when you're dealing with the Mangyan, you really don't see any hostility that can be brought to our organization. But not that it won't. We do take that step in making sure we have local organizations that will provide security for us. Anybody have any other questions? Like I said, we sort of do run it like a military mission. We do look into making sure we're safe. We contact the embassy and any local assets that can give us any information if there's any danger. We plan ahead to make sure we don't run into those things. And like I said, it's a safe country, but we don't want to be complacent and put ourselves in any danger. So we do look over that fact. All right. You got any other questions? Okay, so if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Like I said, shoot us an email at info@black6project.org. You could comment on our Facebook page, The Black Six Project, also Twitter, which is @Black6Project. Our Instagram too is @Black6Project. Shoot us a hello, any questions, any ideas, and again, help us out in volunteering. We are looking to do some other missions coming up. We're still trying to build up our disaster relief teams, and also a medical mission. We're planning to possibly do Guatemala, and maybe next year we're planning to go to Mexico. So we hope you'd be part of that, and hope to see you guys and hear from you guys soon. Dave, anything else?
No, thank you for joining us on our first live webinar, and we plan to host many more in the near future as we start working on some ideas that we're working on behind the scenes, and we'll share that with you. We got some exciting things in the works, and we can't wait to share it with you guys, and so that you can turn around and share it with the world. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your continued support of the Black Six. And I'll see you out there.